for the first time, we have been reading Esther pretty much this whole day already. So we've been going live with all Esther's story. So we are now at the point when they have sent a decree to all the lands saying that the Jews are not to be killed because they are part of Esther's family, and Mordecai has been honored instead of killed. And the guy that was totally hating on Mordecai has been killed, and hating on all the Jews has been killed. So now Esther is over all of Haman's things. He was the bad guy in this story. And so the Jews, and so now we're on chapter 9. So the Jews slay their enemies, including Haman's 10 sons. Oh, that sounds harsh. And the Feast of Purim is instituted to commemorate their deliverance and victory. That's actually really sad. We might have to split this one up because this one is 32 verses. So I might go live just for a little bit for this one. We also like to read Red Hood Hostess commentary. And so we will read a little bit of that as we read the chapters. So when the day finally came that Haman had previously set for the elimination of the Jews, the enemies of the Jews, now the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, although it was turned to the country. The Jews gathered themselves together. So we're going to read of what it says. Okay, verse 1, it says, "Now in the 12th month, that is the month Adar, on the 13th day of the same, when the king's command and his decree drew near to put in extinction in the day that the enemies of the Jews hoped to have power over them, though it was turned to the contrary, that the Jews had rule over them that hated them, the Jews gathered themselves together in their cities throughout all the provinces of the king Ahasuerus, and to lay hand on such as sought their hurt, and no man could withstand them, for the fear of them fell upon all people, and all their rulers of the provinces and the lieutenants and the deputies of the officers of the king helped the Jews because of the fear of Mordecai fell upon them." Okay, also, I like to read, like if you need a reading buddy, this is my accountability. I want to read the whole Old Testament, and so this is me trying to read, and if you need a reading buddy, that's what I'm here for. Because sometimes I just need somebody to read with, because I need to have, because that's my goal and I need to be accountable for it. So anyway, verse 4, "For Mordecai was great in the king's house, and his fame went out throughout all the provinces, for this man Mordecai waxed greater and greater. Thus the Jews smote all their enemies with the stroke of the sword, and slaughter and destruction, and did what they would unto those that hated them. And in Shushan, the palace of the Jews, slew and destroyed 500 men." Wow. "And Parshandatha and Dalphon and Aspath, I'm really bad at reading word or names, Aspatha and Poratha and Adalia and Aridatha and Parmashta and Arisai and Aridaya and Vahezatha, the 10 sons of Haman, the sons of Hamadatha, the enemy of the Jews, slew they, but on the spoil laid they not their hand. On that day, the number of those that were slain in Shushan the palace was brought before the king." Okay, so this was like a lot. There were 500 men who were slain by the Jews, which shows how much resistance there was against the king's new decree. It would be so interesting to go back in time and see the things that were being said in order to stir up the people against the Jews, despite the king's very clear decree, right? Like, it's so crazy. Verse 12, "And the king said unto Esther the queen, The Jews have slain and destroyed 500 men in Shushan the palace, and the 10 sons of Haman. What have they done in the rest of the king's provinces? Now what is thy petition, and it shall be granted thee? Or what is thy request further, and it shall be done?" So King Ahasuerus is doing such a good job at pleasing his wife. And I think that it also has to do with the fact that he was not treating Queen Vashti well enough, I should say, well enough. And so I think with his new marriage, he's kind of seeing, oh, if I'm I can be kind. I can do right by my queen, right? And so I feel like this is a very good example of what a king should do instead of what he was doing before with Queen Vashti, where he was drunk and trying to show her off to all his buddies, right? Like, and treating her like some kind of object, right? Not cool. So it makes sense that she needed to, she needed to go, but like that she was not gonna handle that. Like she was not gonna have that in her life, you know? So verse 13, and said Esther, if it please the king, let it be granted to the Jews which are in Shushan to do tomorrow also according unto this day's decree, and let Haman's 10 sons be hanged upon the gallows. And the king commanded it so be done. And the decree was given at Shushan, and they hanged Haman's 10 sons. For the Jews that were in Shushan gathered themselves together on the 14th day also of the month Adar, and slew 300 men at Shushan, but on the prey they laid not their hand. But the other Jews that were in the king's provinces gathered themselves together and stood for their lives, and had rest from their enemies, and slew of their foes 75,000. But they laid not their hands on the prey. On the 13th day of the month Adar, and on the 14th day, the same rested they, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. But the Jews that were in Shushan assembled together on the 13th day thereof, and on the 14th day thereof, and on the 15th day of the same day they rested, and made it a day of feasting and gladness. Therefore the Jews of the villages that dwelt in the unwalled towns made the 14th day of the month Adar a day of gladness and feasting, and a good day, and of sending portions one to another. Okay, so we're on verse 20 now. It's crazy that there's still so much people like, and that the Jews had to protect themselves, and that they had to like kill 75,000 people. Like that just is crazy. Okay, verse 20. And Mordecai wrote these things and sent letters unto the Jews that were all in all provinces of the king Ahasuerus, both nigh and far, to to establish this among them, that they should keep the 14th day of the month Adar, and the 15th day of the same yearly, as the days were wherein the Jews rested from their enemies, and the month which was turned unto them from sorrow to joy, and from mourning into a good day, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, and of sending portions one to another, and gifts to the poor. So something that's really crazy is like, this all started because Haman didn't like the fact that Mordecai didn't bow to him. Like, what? Like, all these people have to die because of that. And that's just, it's just sad to me. Like, don't hate. Just let people be, you know, just let people be. Mind your own business. You don't need to fight and kill people because somebody is not bowing down to your God. Like, that is an unacceptable thing to wish or to do upon anyone. And so, see, now 75,000 people have been killed for no reason. I mean, there's a reason, obviously, but it's not a good enough reason to die. So, verse 23, and the Jews undertook to do as they had begun, and as Mordecai had written unto them, because Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agite, the enemy of the Jews, had devised against the Jews to destroy them, and had cast pur, that is, the lot, to consume them and destroy them. But when Esther came before the king, he commanded by letters that his wicked device, which he devised against the Jews, should return upon his own head, and that he and his sons should be hanged on the gallows. Wherefore they called these days Purim, after the name of Pur. Therefore, for all the words of this letter and of that which they had seen concerning this matter, and which had come unto them, the Jews ordained and took upon them and upon their seed and upon all such as joined themselves unto them, so as it should not fail, that they would keep these 2 days according to their writing and according to their appointed time every year. So now they celebrate this with this feast and this celebration of like the Jews not dying. But at the same time, I get that we don't want to celebrate death of the enemies either. Like, it's just like a hard time for them, right? And that these days should be remembered and kept throughout every generation, every family, every province, and every city, and that these days of Purim should not fail from among the Jews, nor the memorial of them perish from their seed. Then Esther the queen, the daughter of Abihail, and Mordecai the Jew, wrote with all authority to confirm this second letter of Purim. And he sent the letters unto all the Jews to the 127 provinces of the kingdom of Ahasuerus with words of peace and truth. Verse 31. We're almost done, actually. To confirm these days of Purim in their times appointed, according as Mordecai the Jews and Esther the queen had enjoined them, and as they had decreed for themselves and for their seed the matters of the fastings and their cry. And the decree of Esther confirmed these matters of Purim, and it was written in the book. Okay, um, so this is like a 2-day festival. So Purim is a 2-day festival. It's celebrated in late winter, early spring. For example, in the 2026, it was celebrated March 2nd and 3rd. The word pur means lots, and Haman had cast lots to determine when the death of the Jews should be carried out. Of course, that did not happen. So during this festival, the book of Esther is read, often called the Megillah. Money and gifts are given to at least 2 poor people. Today, Purim is an especially joyous festival, and many will dress up in costume. Drinking alcohol, getting merry and drunk is also popular practice. Many Purim invitations or happy Purim signs involve a costume mask. So if you look for images of the 1800s and that are called like Happy Purim days or celebrations, you'll see face masks in like the art of individuals and stuff. And so it's kind of cool. Look up Purim Feast of Esther by Daniel Oppenheim, 1873, and you'll see it's kind of cute. So because of the costumes, festive atmosphere, some people casually compare it to the Jewish Halloween, though Purim has a very different origin. Okay, so that was it for that chapter. And if you are feeling like you are still lying to your friends and you think everything's going to be fine, but we just have to let time pass because of our betrayal trauma, then you no longer have to pretend to carry this pain alone. I have created this monthly Christ-centered hug in the mail, and it includes things filled with truth, healing tools, just simple challenges, things that we can do at home to guide us from surviving to thriving, to move us from our state of fight, flight, or freeze into a living and breathing and space that we're able to heal more, like, I wouldn't say like, yeah, I would say faster than you would normally, because you don't have that normal guidance. If you're just trying to allow time to pass by and you just hope that the things you're doing now are going to help you, but they're not, because they weren't for me and they were not enough. So I needed specific guidance through different tools to help me. So if you're curious about what that includes, go to warriorletters.com. And if anything resonates with you there, you can sign up for your first supply drop. And I'd be honored to send you the tools that have helped me with my journey.